welcome to the one and only Tszyu.
Hey guys, how are we? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, October the 16th, 2023, and no need to say it, what a weekend it was. Hope you enjoyed the fights up in Queensland. I was lucky enough to be there with my family. It was a really good weekend. We went up on the Friday night, caught up with friends on the Saturday, went to Movie World on the Saturday night, which was great for, is it Fright Night? What have I got there on my chin there? There you go, I'll get rid of that. For Fright Night, just a spur of the moment thing, it was awesome. And then, of course, the big fight on Sunday. So what did you guys think? Of course, I'm sure we're going to have a lot to go over in tonight's episode. Who we got in the chat so far? Kyle Champion, how are you, mate? Welcome to the show. Always great to have you on. What do we got there? We got Big J's in there as well. Let's see what we've got to speak about tonight. So good evening, Lynden. Great performance from Tszyu, round 7 to 11. Tim was absolutely dominant. The uppercuts had cruel intentions, and he hasn't lost any pop in his 1-2 combinations. Yeah, that's for sure. Kyle, he was he did sort of I won't say he started slow, but he's just, as you would expect with someone of Mendoza's stature. He did what he had to do and just fouled him out, got his range, got his timing, and then she was all over. Just hang on a sec there. I'm just gonna fix up my green screen there because it's not really functioning there. All good. All right, Big J, how are you there, mate? What do we got? Hey, mate, methodical performance by Tszyu yesterday, although I feel he needed the KO. What was the crowd attendance like? I heard not a sellout. How long did you think Tszyu versus Charlo sells in US? Yeah, I must admit, Big J, when I walked into the stadium, I haven't been there before. I'm not sure. I'm assuming that's where Jaya Pattaya fought Breedis. I must admit, when I walked in there, we got there, what was it? In the first, it might have been the second round of the Julius Long. And who did he fight? Vioatu, or how do you pronounce his name? So, yeah, there was no one there at the time, but I must admit, I looked at the crowd when the main support was over, because that's normally when it's at its fullest, and there were a fair few empty seats. Now, I'm thinking, you guys might know better than what I do, I'm thinking looking around, the stadium probably holds 5,000, I'm probably thinking. There certainly wasn't 5. I'm thinking maybe there's probably 500 seats. I'm not sure. But it certainly wasn't an absolute full house, Big J. Look, the atmosphere was okay, but nothing on the Tszyu and Harrison fight that I went to earlier in the year in Western Sydney. That was just an unbelievable atmosphere there. It was, 12 or 13,000, whatever was there. And it was just an awesome, especially like when he started bowling in those uppercuts and overhand rights against Harrison. It was pretty electric in there. But it's an interesting one, mate. Would Tszyu and Charlo sell in the US? I've said all along, I doubt that fight happens, at least for the foreseeable future. As I just fix up my greens. I don't know. Sorry, guys. I don't know what I've done tonight. Of course, if you're listening to this after the fact, you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So what was it? Do you think Tszyu versus Charlo sells in the US? Yeah. I think it still sells, mate. I think over here it will be massive. In the States, I think it's just another PBC fight night, if you ask me. I think what we've got to remember over here, and I think I sort of touched on this a little bit on my review, and if you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out. It's on YouTube. And thanks for everyone that's watched it. It's had 21 or 2,200 or something views, so that's great. Thanks very much for that. In the States, Tim Tszyu is still that Aussie guy. He's not. I know he's a superstar here in Australia, but in the States, he's now obviously very well known. He's very well respected. A lot of fans have jumped on board, but he's not at that Crawford, Spence, obviously Canelo, even Charlo sort of level as far as support goes. So I'm not quite sure it's a mega event over there. I think it's just another PBC show or big-ish, obviously, fight. Over here, obviously, it's a massive, massive event. So if it does happen, it'll be really interesting to see where it is and how much money they can generate. I actually think if they brought the fight to Australia, that could be, they could generate the amount of money that it would take to get Charlo out here, and he would need a lot. And I'm talking between 5 and 10 million. He would probably want to come out here. Whether Tim has to take a bit of a haircut to get him out here is one thing. Look, I think the pay-per-views, of course, would be massive, but it could also be a stadium fight if they wanted it to. So plenty of money to be made there. I think in the States, what they're probably relying on the most is the pay-per-view from Australia. The money from Australia sells this fight. So whether it's worth more to the promoters to do it in America and get the Australian pay-per-view on top of it, we'll see. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I still don't think the fight happens with Charlo, but you just never know. I think I said in my preview or review, whatever it was, that at least Charlo is now, or for the first time, has actually started to mention Tim as a prospective opponent, because in the last 6 months, 8 months, whatever it's been since the original fight was cancelled, he probably hasn't really acknowledged Tim as a potential opponent, other than to lay the boots into Tim. So it's an interesting one though. BJ, I think overall they'll probably cancel each other out, whether it's in the States or in America, as far as the money they can generate. The big thing I think though is what we don't sort of speak about enough is the fact that Tim wants to get to the States. He wants to fight in Vegas. I know he loves Australia. He loves Australians, the fight fans. I don't think he'd want to go to a stadium in Australia and put the fight on. I think he wants to go to the T-Mobile Arena or MGM Grand or something. That's what he wants to do. I think that is what he feels is his destiny, and that's what he wants to do. Of course, we've all seen what Costa did back in the day. That's what Tim wants to do. So I think that's the overriding thing of the whole situation, is that whether it sells in one or the other, Tim wants that fight in the States. So, and he's obviously been speaking about it, especially after the fight. This NRL thing, let me know a little bit about that if you know more. From what I've read, the NRL are doing, is it a doubleheader or something in Las Vegas in March, I think it might be, and they want to tie in the whole Australian theme and get a Tim Tszyu fight in March, which would be great. I'd certainly be there. I'd go to the league. Yep, caught it right, the league, not rugby. So I would definitely go if it's a doubleheader, or they bring something in. Maybe it's a concert or something featuring an Australian artist while they're on there as well. It's a big Australia week. I think that's great. Really good sort of forward thinking by the NRL and Team Tszyu to sort of coincide together. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, it should be great. I'll move on there. I'm sort of missing a few comments. Big J again. I feel after the Canelo fight, Charlo's stock has plummeted, and the undisputed fight with Tszyu would do better here. Your thoughts? Good to see Wade Ryan get up. Why is Julius allowed to fight? There's a few different questions in there, mate. First one, Charlo's fight, his stock has definitely plummeted. No doubt about that. It has plummeted. I mean, to the point where before his fight with Canelo, Crawford was pretty vocal about maybe wanting to fight Charlo. Well, after the fight, he said, not interested, you can have that. And we're talking about Crawford, I know he's riding a wave at the moment as far as his popularity and his standing in the sport, and as it should. I mean, it was a great performance against Spence. But, when you've got someone that has, like Crawford, who's always struggled to get the notoriety and the publicity and the attention and the fans and the pay-per-view sales and all this sort of stuff, openly coming out and saying, Charlo, I don't want you no more. That probably tells you a lot. But look, and quite rightly so, Charlo's stock should have plummeted. And I actually applaud the fact that Tim has said, yeah, and he hasn't ruled it out, of course. He wants to fight Charlo, but you can just tell it's not really as high on his agenda anymore. He wants the Crawfords and Spencers and Canelos. We might talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. But, yeah, I think Charlo for sure, Big J, he's going to be an all-time low. And I really think he struggles to get another big fight. And I think he's got a bit of a nerve, to be honest, that after that fight with Canelo, he called out Crawford. I mean, who do you think you are, mate? It's not like you went out there and fought your heart out for 8, 9, 10 rounds and got stopped or lost a close decision, or at least went out on your shield, at least something. At least maybe raise a sweat, Jermell. Didn't even do that. So, I think he's got to cop what's coming to him. He needs to suck it up. I know he's a really angry young guy, or he's not so young anymore, but he's an angry guy. Always got a chip on the shoulder, always thinks everyone's against him. He's got to suck it up and go back to the drawing board and get a credible opponent. Tszyu obviously fits the bill perfectly, but whether it's Tim or someone else, he needs to get another big or a very reputable opponent to try and get a little bit of respect back, and then who knows what can happen after that. But at the moment, unfortunately, he's not even in the game or in the conversation at the moment about the biggest stars on the sport. If anything, people talk about him as who's probably the biggest disappointment in boxing, and he would definitely have to be up there. I mean, I still can't get over that performance, guys. I really cannot get over the performance that, and a fight of that magnitude, he would put in that type of fight. It was shocking. What else have we got there? Big J again. You've got in early tonight there, mate. Still got enough in me to knock the chump McAllister out. Ha ha. You are watching on tonight, Jai. G'day. I did actually see you at the fights. I might actually the Wayne. I think I saw you at the Wayne. No, it was definitely the fights. I was up in the stands and saw a lot of the media walking around. I did see you down there, so I hope you're well, Jai. Sure, you guys can sort it out, Big J. I'm not quite sure what the hassle is, but I'm sure if you can catch up and have a beer or a coffee, whatever it is, and hug it out, I'm sure you'll be fine. Adam Kelly, how are you, mate? Lynden, it went the distance. I thought Mendoza would have caught him, but Timmy, well done. Yeah, we've looked at my review there, Adam. I did pick Tim by 9th or 10th round stoppage, and it did certainly look that way for a while, didn't it? But, look, he was as tough as nails, wasn't he? Was Brian Mendoza. Tim, it went probably the way I thought it would at the start. We had Tim, I'm not going to call him Timmy, Tim, sort of hunting him down, taking his time, picking his shot, and he's so good at just hunting you down step by step, round by round, minute by minute, whatever it might be. And, Brian Mendoza really couldn't go with Tim in any facet. Work rate, the power, you name it. He just couldn't go with Tim, I suppose. Just underline it. Couldn't go with Tim in any of those departments. And look, he was game, put up a great fight. I didn't expect it to go the distance, but it's a credit to Brian Mendoza that he did. But I know they were having a really good look at Mendoza after the 11th round, I think it was. And no one would have begrudged Brian Mendoza at all if he had stayed on his stool. I think it would have been a round of applause all round. But good on him for finishing the fight. I think Tim had a fair bit to do with that. I think he took the foot off the pedal in the last round especially. But, just a really, really good performance by Tim and Brian Mendoza. And if you look at what I said in the review, I sort of wanted to touch on the fact that Tim, for the first time, showed to me that he is just a 100% certifiable A grader. And I saw an A grader break down another probably B plus fighter. And as again I said in the review that I know a lot of Aussie fight fans see Tim as the Messiah and unbeatable and a superstar, and maybe he is. We all love him, of course, but over in the States, he hasn't really got. He's liked and respected, but hasn't really got the stature just yet. Harrison and Ocampo, you could probably discuss the pros and cons of both those opponents. But what I saw on the weekend was Brian Mendoza at the top of his game, coming off a couple of great upset knockout victories, WBC interim champion. A lot of people thought he would win this fight, or at least really pushed Tim. And Tim just pretty much made it look easy. I thought he just went through the gears, just did what he wanted to do and broke Mendoza down. And that's what I was so impressed about the most, is that Tim showed for the first time that one elite fighter against another elite fighter, and Tim just broke him down and as I said, made it look pretty effortlessly in the end, I thought. So just full respect to Tim. I did say again that the only thing I am a little bit not critical of, but I just would like to see tied it up, is the fact that when he starts to when he gets his opponent hurt or gets him on the go and he's backing up, that he just tends, sometimes the chin goes up in the air a little bit and he just starts bombing away. The real elite fighters will set traps for that sort of thing and then try and nail him with a counter shot or whatever it might be. But look, he's an elite fighter. He's the number one 154-pound guy fighter in the world at the moment. I don't count Charlo in there at the moment because until he makes his mind up what he's going to do, he's a 168 fighter for me. So, but yeah, I can't sing his praises enough. Shane Sermon is in the chat. How are you, Shane? Hope you're well, mate. Thanks for watching the show. Big J says, what else have we got there, mate? Lynden, Lynden, has anyone ever told you have a long-lost twin brother in the dad bod vet? Were you separated at birth? No, I haven't seen the dad bod, Big J. I've got a feeling my wife might have just sent me the long grey beard. He's a little bit longer than what mine is, but getting there, Big J. I don't think I'd ever want a big beard like that, but yeah, I am a little bit grey, and I probably need to tidy it up a little bit. I probably should have combed it before I come on air. But no, I haven't. As long as you're not referring to my body there, mate, that's the main thing. I don't mind the beard, but as long as I haven't got the dad bod body. Was it dad bod vet? James Daly, how are you, mate? Welcome to the show. Crawford and Charlo have stalemate Mexican standoff. Who fights Tim first? Yeah, well, if that's the case, James, if you're Tim Tszyu, who do you take, Crawford or Charlo? I'd be taking Crawford every day of the week. I know he wants to get that fight with Charlo, but Crawford for me is the much bigger fight, the bigger payday. Look, I would probably say if I had both of those in front of me now, as far as Tim goes, and you got Charlo wanting to come back, Crawford to come up, I would say to Charlo, mate, you had your chance, go off and now earn the fight with me. I'm going to take the fight with Terence Crawford. I saw there was a couple of comments on the YouTube page today with all the views that we had there, and someone said about not ready for Crawford. Well, whether he is or not, I don't really know. Look, I personally think he is. But when are you ever ready for Terence Crawford? It's like, when are you ready to fight Canelo Alvarez or Floyd Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao? You just don't know when you're ready. He's 28 years old. Take the fight. Payday, opportunity, the status. Who cares? Well, of course, we want him to win. But, I mean, if it doesn't happen to come off, well, you go again. He's young enough. This whole undefeated thing and not taking risks and not trying to, as they say, dare to be great, not getting out of your comfort zone. We've got to try and get around that. You know, the greats of all the previous years have all done it. And they've won a few, lost a few. Some of the greatest fighters of all time, the Durans and these types of guys, Pacquiao's have all gone up in weight and lost fights, won fights, lost fights, but they're regarded as the best fighters of all time. And so I don't think it matters whether he lost to Crawford or not. I think it's a great fight. I think it's a competitive fight. I really do. Whether he would win or not, I'm not sure. I would like to maybe see him have, maybe could be the Charlo fight or another one or two fights before Crawford. But if Crawford came out and said, I want to fight Tim Tszyu next, if I was Tim Tszyu, I'd say bring it on, 100%. Let's do it in Vegas and let's go. Robbie Jones, how are you, Robbie? Welcome to the show. What do you got there? A lot of good fights. Even the girls slugged it out. Awesome night at the Goldie. Yeah, it was a really interesting type of card, Robbie. Look, I've got it actually in front of me at the moment. I only saw the last couple of rounds of the Wade Ryan fight, and congratulations to Wade Ryan. I was really happy for him because I did actually see him when we were going in. He was actually coming out with the team. I'm not sure whether that was it for the day. He was going back to the hotel, but he was definitely on his way out of the venue. So I don't know, maybe he was going for a swim and he'd come back. I don't know. But really happy for Wade Ryan. He was obviously brought in as the opponent. First fight on the card. I don't know. I'm trying to get my head around the order of the card. I understand they've only got a certain amount of fights to put on the main card, and they have the free card on Fox Sports 507, whatever it was, to start it. But the order of the card just confused me. I'll get to that in a sec. But yeah, Wade Ryan, as I said, he was obviously brought in for the opponent with Vorobiev. I think Vorobiev thought he was all lit in a bag of chips. He was sort of calling out Nikita Tszyu and everything else. But Wade Ryan just does what he does. He's the ultimate spoiler and got the win. What was the decision there? It was 98-92, 99-91, 98-92. So it was a comprehensive win by Wade Ryan. So I hope Vorobiev, is a YouTuber or something, just learns that just because you're Russian, you just can't come down to Australia and do your thing. We have got good quality fighters here. And yeah, I think, I'm not sure who the matchmaker was with that fight, but whoever it was, they would probably rethink that if they were trying to give Vorobiev a bit of a profile here in Australia. But again, best of luck to Wade Ryan. That was for the IBF Pan Pacific and WBO Oriental Super Welterweight title. So, so good on him. The other fights on the card, I saw about the first 5 rounds of Haas Hamden and Danvers Kushieri. What do we think of that? What do we think of the whole Jeff Fennick, Ben Sava situation? It's interesting. I didn't see after. If you didn't see the end of it, apparently after the fight, I'm sure we all saw the lead up to it. Hass Hamden calling out Ben Sava at the weigh-in and all going back and forth. I don't like to see it. I think Ben Sava handled it really well. I'm not sure he's going to fight Hass Hamden. Who knows? But apparently after the fight, there was some gestures and words exchanged, and apparently Jeff sort of made a bit of a rush over to Ben Sava, and they had to be separated. Again, I didn't see it. I was probably on my way into the venue at that stage, but that's disappointing. It is the way. I think Jeff, and I just love Jeff. He's my all-time favourite fighter, but you know, I don't know whether he gets frustrated by the whole thing, but I don't know. But Ben Sava just seems to get under his skin. And I'm not sure the circumstances, but Jeff, I just don't think he needs to. I won't say lower himself to it, because he's a human being. He's going to react to how he's going to react, but he just doesn't need to do that type of thing. We all love Jeff. He's most people's favourite Aussie fighter of all time. He's done so much for the sport, in the ring and as a trainer and commentator and promoter and manager, all that sort of stuff. And I just don't think he needs to get involved in a bit of the tit for tat stuff. And I would actually hope, having said that, and that he would actually say to Hass Hamden, mate, just pull it back a notch. You're 7-0 now. You don't need to play the role he's trying to play. I've never met the kid. I don't know who he is. I know his dad's a very, very humble guy, a great champion of the fight game as well. And I'm surprised that Jeff hasn't, or his dad hasn't pulled him back and said, mate, hey, just wait till you're headlining these shows, and then you can maybe start with this. It almost comes across as a little bit of cringe, if you ask me. A good young fighter. I'm sure he's going to be, an exceptional prospect for us. He got the win over Kushierra in a very dominant performance. It was good, but I just don't think he needs to play the game and just wind him back. And not just Hass. I think a lot of Aussie fighters. I know, guys, you're on the big stage, you're on the no limit thing, and you got all the cameras and everyone on you. I get it. I understand it. Doesn't mean you've got to carry on like a pork chop. You know, that's an old saying. I mean, you look at the way that Jackson John England and Nathaniel May conducted themselves. Look at how Amber Amelia and Chanel Dargan conducted themselves. That is class. That is the way you do it, guys and girls, if you're watching, okay? And I know it's good for clicks, and I know the promoters are probably happy with it. I just think it's so cringeworthy with the whole yap, and, threatening each other and all this sort of stuff. But that's just my opinion. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there like it. But to see Jackson John England and Nathaniel May, two very, very good fighters, and they put on a great fight on the day as well. That what was the decision on that? I haven't actually got the scores on there, but Jackson John England got the decision, of course. That is the way you conduct yourself, guys and girls. And Amber Amelia, Chanel Dargan, fantastic role models for not just female boxers, but all boxers alike. That is the way you go about it. So, and of course, Brian Mendoza and Tszyu, you can't get better role models than those two guys. I know it gets a little bit tense there sometimes, but both of those guys just all class with the way they did, and they just don't need to do it. So anyway, that's my little rant. Actually, talking about rants, I'm going to go on one before I move on. Now, in the crowd yesterday, I know it's the Australian way to have a bit of light-hearted fun, if you want to call it that, and yell out some stuff and yeehaw and whatever else it is. But I'll tell you what, if I was, say, an American visiting or wherever, a visitor to Australia, a fight fan coming to watch the fight, it's so embarrassing, I suppose you'd call it. Now, what I'm referring to is people in the crowd. Yeah, you always get the yobbos that want to have a bit to say. But yesterday, it's almost like it's a competition to see who can be the biggest yobbo in the crowd and who can be the biggest tool. I understand people like to yell stuff out and be funny, but it's almost a competition these days. And I'm all for the whole, if people want to yell out and have a bit of fun. But, as I said, it becomes a competition who can be the most crude, and there's lots of F's and C's and that being thrown around. I swear with the best of them, don't get me wrong. But I'm in the crowd. It's just, these guys, I don't know if they just think, for some unknown reason, I think they're funny. I'm telling you, you aren't funny. You look like a complete dickhead. So all those yobbos in the crowd that are yelling out and trying to outdo each other with stupid comments, just go there and enjoy the fights. I understand we don't get a lot of fights in Australia or big fights like that. So not like overseas where they have England and the States and Mexico and all those, Europe, they have fights all the time. So you get a fight crowd. I understand we don't necessarily have a fight crowd or a big fight crowd. Percentage wise, so a lot of the footy supporters or whoever it might be, guys that don't get out much, they get let off the chain, go and have a few beers and carry on. I did actually like, we had a guy just near us was getting the crowd going with singing Tszyu songs. That's awesome. That's great. That's what we want to see. But when you got F's and C's and that flying all over the place, it's just pretty shitty, if you ask me. Just my opinion. Maybe I'm just getting old, but I hate to see it. Anyway, the rest of the card there, who else fought there? So the Amber Amelia Chanel Dargan fight, I thought was a really good fight for the girls. I actually, watching it, I thought maybe Amber Amelia got it, but every round was super close, and Chanel Dargan did finish strong. So the scores there were 77-75 times 3, so 5 rounds to 3. Whatever, that's fine. I really, was excited and happy for Chanel Dargan after the fight. She was really, really emotional. She gave up. She had a little boy with her, and she obviously sacrificed a lot. She said she gets up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning or something. Has to take her son with her to go training and all the rest of it. So I just was genuinely happy for her. And the other thing, actually, while I'm thinking of what I was really happy with, I know I'm sort of rambling here, guys. I've probably got 100 comments to get through. But I really liked or loved the Welcome to Country. Normally, when the Welcome to Country comes on, I'm like, oh, geez, all right, we've got to go through this every single event or whatever it might be. But especially in the wake of the Voice result, whether you voted yes or no, that's whoever's opinion. It's up to you, whatever you did, and good luck to whether you voted no or yes. But the Welcome to Country, I think it's the best one I've ever seen. I can't remember the name of the guy that did it, but he was so good and genuine, and he could have probably, you probably could have forgiven him for maybe, I don't know, having a bit of say about what happened, but he was just so respectful to everyone. But anyway, so good on him. Let's get through the comments, guys. I know I'm holding things up here. But the rest of the fights too, by the way, I will say before I move on, though, Sam Goodman, very impressed with him as well. I was sort of thinking when he came on for that 12-round fight, I'm thinking, geez, I've got to get through 12 rounds because he's not normally the most exciting fighter, but he was awesome. So, all right, let's get through some comments. No, that was Robbie Jones there. Paul Camilleri, I'm probably a few minutes behind here, guys. Sorry. Tim was so patient, cautious but brutal when he had to be. He's a real deal, but us Aussies always knew this. Yeah, we did, mate, and more people overseas are starting to realise it too, aren't they? Kyle Champion, the only thing bad about the Tszyu Mendoza fight was Tim's sister screaming in the background. Security removed that woman. Well, there was actually an article in the paper today about that. I think there was actually numerous papers. I think there was a bit of every paper in the country, in the capital cities, all had something to say. I did hear. I was up in the stands. I remember thinking, who's that screaming down at ringside? So it was her. I think, look, I would probably feel a little bit for her, to be honest, Kyle. I think she'd be absolutely horrified that there's been articles written about her and Facebook posts or social media posts and all that saying, tell her to shut up. So I think she'd be horrified. She's only 21 years old. That's her brother in there. So give her a bit of a leave or a pass on that one. Big J, all right, 6,500 capacity for the Gold Coast Exhibition Centre. Okay, well, if it holds 6.5, Big J, there must have been maybe 5.5 to 6. I'm probably thinking maybe 6, probably 500 empty seats. Asbot says, I think we can all agree on two things. Tim's performance was a masterclass. Yeah, it was, mate. It certainly was. He did what elite fighters do. They get the job done with a minimal of fuss. That's as simple as that. They just get the job done, do what they got to do, and move on to the next one. So, Mitch Cook, evening, mate. Must say, was pretty disappointed with the atmosphere yesterday too. Wasn't a huge fan of the light bar covering the replay screens either. Jackson versus May was a bloody cracking fight. Yeah, it was. The whole thing, I actually had a few people comment. Well, actually, one of them was D-Style in the States actually commented that what was it like there? He's obviously watching from America and said it didn't really have the usual atmosphere. Look at all I can tell you is that when Tim had Mendoza hurt, the roof was about to lift off. That's what I will say. But I'm with you there, Mitch. The atmosphere was just a little bit flat. And I will say I'm surprised that they had this fight. Well, probably not surprised now because they didn't sell it out. But I would have thought after the Harrison fight when they had, was it 10, 12,000 people at that fight in Sydney. Why they wouldn't have had it somewhere like that, or Melbourne, where they've got a massive crowd like that. They would have got 10 or 12,000 at Rod Laver in Melbourne. They obviously would have done it again in Sydney. I'm not sure. Obviously, a lot of money would have exchanged hands to have it there. But I must say, yeah, I probably expected a bit more, Mitch, as far as the attendance and also just the whole buzz around the whole thing. It was pretty good at the weigh-in. That was okay at Pacific Fair, except it was bloody hot out in the sun. Shane, if you've been wondering about Beck Hawker, she suffered a potentially career-ending injury. Okay, I didn't know that, mate. She's recovering very well and is expecting to be able to continue with her career. That's great, mate. I think someone brought it up last week about Beck Hawker, so that's great. Let's hope she comes good and she gets some big fights going forward. Cole Champion, I gave Mendoza rounds 1, 3, 6, and 12. Okay, well, we only agree on one round there, mate. That was round number 12. Look, I must admit, it's a lot different watching live to on TV. You just see things a lot different. I actually gave Mendoza 4, 8, and 12. So, I don't know. I think that was 4, 8, and 12. But I certainly wouldn't argue with anyone about any of the rounds. I would have given Tim all of them except round 12, to be honest. Really, I wouldn't argue with anyone that had it that way. But either way, I had it 9 rounds to 3. Would you have it 8 rounds to 4? So pretty much we're both on the mark. Yours would have been 116, 112. Mine was 117, 111, which is pretty much what the scores were. So, Mitch, I felt for Flores. A few of them low blows calls were a bit rough from where I sat. He earned my respect, and he and his team. Yeah, I must admit, Mitch Cook, that they were both ripping in hard to the body. I thought that Sam Goodman was giving as good as he was getting. There were some low blows in there, but I'm with you. I did think, I was just hoping, though, we'll be honest, that he wasn't going to get disqualified because I think he had the second point taken away in the 10th round. I thought, geez, he's got 2 rounds to get through. And, of course, the first thing he did when they started fighting was start ripping to the body again. I'm thinking, just don't get yourself disqualified. It's a long way to come for that. And it wouldn't have been good for Sam either. I know how that affects ratings and whatever. But, he was a warrior, Mitch. He come to fight just like, all Americans, Mexicans or American Mexicans, whatever it might be, Mexican Americans, what they all do. But yeah, no, he was tough and hard, like Brian Mendoza was as well. So both of those guys have, and look, all the fighters on the card, maybe not old mate Julius Long, but I'm not sure I answered that question earlier about him. But look, Julius, he's in his 40s now. He got called in on a week's notice. They might have, for a 4-round fight, they would have offered him really good coin to come over from New Zealand to take that fight. So we can't be too hard on him. I'm just disappointed it was on the main card. It shouldn't have been on the main card. It should have been that and maybe, I don't know. They were all pretty good fights, weren't they? But, if they've got the fights, what they have as the main card, so they had 24, 34, 42, 46 rounds on the card. Well, of course, they should have the main, Sam Goodman. I would have liked to have seen Hamden and Kushieri on the main card, and maybe even Wade Ryan and Vorobev on the main card. But anyway, they make the decisions, but it is what it is. Pound for pound, King, how are you, mate? Thanks for joining in the show. Mitch says again, felt for... sorry, I've just gone over that comment. Sorry about that. Charlo has already said he won't go to Australia. Yeah, okay. Yep. Money talks, so, mate, but you never know. But I wouldn't either if I was him. I'd want to get it in America. I don't think we're going to have that problem, though, mate, because, as I said, Tim wants that fight in the States. I'm sure it'll be there. The girls' fight was very entertaining, says Mark Wynn. I don't usually like women's fights, but that one was a cracker. Yeah, it was. Both girls. I mean, it was great fighting for the, I think, the first time 2 women have fought for that particular title. They've just got the Aboriginal flag on the belt as well. So it was a pretty special time for those 2 girls, and I just thought they both handled themselves so well inside and outside the ring. And I did feel for Amber Amelia afterwards as well. She looked a bit lost, but as I said before, full respect to Chanel Dargan. Just a great performance, and sometimes you don't see what these fighters have to do to get where they have to get to. All fighters sacrifice, but some more than others. But I'm just really happy for her as well. I'm sure Amber Amelia will come back as well. Shane says next March, Tim versus Lubin. I reckon I would love to see that fight next, Shane. That it does make a lot of sense, doesn't it? That they fight Tim Tszyu and Erickson Lubin. I think that makes a lot of sense in March if that is the case. So they've both obviously, Tim yesterday and Lubin was a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. So it makes perfect sense, and I think that would be a ripper. So don't be surprised if that is the fight, and then maybe the winner to fight Terence Crawford, or at least if Tim wins, he fights Crawford. Glenn, how are you, mate? Evening to you as well. Glenn says, I think Spence moves up to fight Lubin. Well, what's happening with Crawford and Spence? The word is, the last word I saw was that they were going to fight in January or February. So I know they've got to work out the weight. Of course, Crawford says it's going to be at welterweight. I just think he's waiting for some extra money or a better split of the pie to move up at 154. I don't think he cares whether he fights at 147 or 154, but I fully get and respect the fact that he said, well, I'm calling the shots as per our contract. So let's say it's at 147, and if you want it at 154, well, you got to pony up with some extra money. That's what I think will happen. I think they'll fight at 154, but you might find there's an extra mil or two that goes to Crawford. Zygmunt Krasinski, hi mate. Chanel Dargan in another exciting back and forth war. How do you see her going, Lynden? Look, I was really impressed, Zygmunt, because in all her fights so far, she's always come out just throwing bombs. And I think I said last week or the week before, I was really worried about that style that she takes because it's fraught with danger when the class or the level of class goes up. So I was really impressed that she really took her time a lot more. I will say that was almost to a detriment because Amber Amelia started pretty quick and I thought won a few of those early rounds, but I thought she boxed really well. And what it allowed her to do is as the rounds went on, as Amber Amelia started to just wind down a little bit, it allowed her to pick up the pace, whereas in the past she's probably gassed out a little bit. So, yeah, really, really good. I think she's got the new trainer now. Ben Savra, I think, had a bit to do with her. Her other trainer is retiring. So, yeah, no, she fought really well. Look, as far as how do I see her going, I still think she's got a long way to go, Zygmunt. But I like the fact that the ball's now rolling as far as sharpening her up, tightening her defense up, putting a little bit more emphasis on her punches and developing her. And I've got a lot of respect for Ben Savra as a trainer. I know Jeff Fennick hasn't, but I think he's actually a really good trainer. And I think that he'll put some really good finishing touches on her, and I think you'll find her improve and get some big fights. But it's a little bit early at the moment, mate, as far as seeing whether she's going to be world class. But we'll see. Kyle says, what do we got? Charlo will have to play ball with the IBF. He's been paying off Murtazevliov. Always get that wrong. For over 2 years, there'll be no money in that fight, but Charlo needs to take it or they'll strip him. Yeah, at this point, mate, I don't think he'll really care whether he loses the IBF belt. He's lost the WBO belt, so he's no longer undisputed. He's probably thinking, oh, well, I think in guys like his mind, you're either undisputed or you're not. And I think, they've got to pay sanctioning fees and all that on all of the belts. So I don't think it'll really matter to him. I think he'll let that belt go. I think he's at the point of his career with that these fights mean nothing to him. He wants the biggest fights, and fighting this guy, I think he'd rather just give up the belt. So we'll see. Glenn says Charlo will move to 160. I'm with you there, Glenn. I agree. D-Style is in the house. How are you, mate? I'm not sure what time of morning it is over there, but hello to you. And he says Charlo Castano had very poor gate numbers for the rematch. That was last year in May. His stock has further dropped. Yeah, I'm with. Well, you'd know, obviously, being over there amongst it all in the States. Yeah, it's going to be a tough sell. I think Charlo and Tim would still sell, but just not to the extent that it did. And rather than maybe doing it T-Mobile, or I think it was going to be at the Mandalay Bay, maybe they might have to have it at the MGM and they scale it down a lot. I was at the Crawford and Jeff Horn fight in 2018, and they actually cordoned off the top layer, so there was about 8,000 in the house. That's probably, I think, the sort of crowd we get over there for Tim and Charlo. Although, having said that, if they do the NRL on the same weekend, you'll probably find there'll be a couple of thousand Aussies over there. So who knows? They might pack the joint out. Be great. I don't bite. How are you, mate? That's an interesting name. Mendoza won. Oh, hang on. Mendoza won 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. But in Australia, what are you going to do? Tim's dirty tactics won't work with Ramos. I don't know whether you're trolling a bit there, mate, but I don't know what fight you were watching. Where are you, D-Style? I can see. Yeah, there you go. I knew you'd be backing us up there. This is your fellow American here. Now, mate, I don't know what fight you're watching, but I think the most he won was maybe 4 rounds. Comprehensively beaten. I don't know what dirty tactics you're sort of talking about. I think he absolutely dominated him and took him to school. So remember, it's an American referee. If he's doing untoward things, he's going to pull him up. And working with Ramos, well, mate, let's worry about Ramos getting back on the winners list before him even talking about fighting Tim Tszyu, because his last fight against Barrios, no, it wasn't Barrios. Oh, sorry, who did he lose to? It was no, that was Lubin against Barrios. Mental blank. Let me know who beat Ramos last. Oh, it was Lubin. Of course, it was Lubin. Yeah, no, let's see him beat Lubin in a rematch. We'll get another win before we talk about him in the same breath as Tim Tszyu there, mate. But hey, it's a conversation show, so knock yourself out. D-Style, I was going to ask you, mate, how did you have it? I only gave Mendoza 3 rounds. Yeah, well, that's all I gave him to, mate. Glenn, if Charlo drops to 160, it would only be for Triple G. I think Triple G's done, Kyle, but you never know, and that might as well be a retirement fight for both. No, I think there's some good fights for Charlo at 160, Kyle. I think, is there? I suppose. Or no, I suppose you've now got Andre and Benavides. Yeah, look, who knows what these guys are going to do. But yeah, you're probably right there, Kyle. It's probably not a lot at 160 for him, is there? So maybe you might wait it out at 160. I've just still got major doubts that he can make 154. I really do. Oh, here we go. Now I know you're trolling there. I don't bite. Carlos Adames stops Tim in 4. Come on, mate. Oh, now you're really taking the piss. Australian judges, we saw with Manny. I'll reiterate, mate, that just because your man doesn't win a close fight doesn't mean it was a rip-off. And for your information, the 3 judges were all non-Australian. They were all from all over the world. They weren't Australian judges. Well, I think there might have been one Philippines, one overseas, whatever it was. But they were neutral judges, mate. So just relax a bit with that. And just, as I said, just because your guy doesn't win, and we all love Manny, by the way, but just because your fighter loses a close fight doesn't mean he was ripped off. It was a very, very, very close fight. If Manny had got it, I wouldn't have argued, as I'm sure a lot of other Australian fans wouldn't have argued either. Mate, your guy lost. About time to get over it, I think, there, mate. And Glenn, I think you just hit it on the head there, mate. D-Style. Is he one of your guys, D-Style? Mr. Bite. I don't bite, is it? I think he might be one of your guys that maybe watches you, D-Style. If he is, just pull him in the line a bit for us, will you? We're not in the mood when it comes to our fighters down here to be putting up with that stuff. But hey, as I said, it's called talking boxing. Talk about whatever you want. Sure, you'll sort it out amongst yourselves. Cole says, yeah, Mendoza won 4 rounds tops. Yep. D-Style. People expected Mendoza to come out forcing exchanges people expected Mendoza to come out forcing exchanges for some reason, but I knew he would try and box to try and find a counter. Tim didn't let him take a second of a break the whole fight. Yeah, no, I'm right. Sorry, mate. I was reading another comment there. Nah, you're right. Look, I just think the fight, you picked it the same as me, D. So I think you might have picked a late round stoppage as well, like I did. But apart from that, I think the fight went exactly the way I thought it would anyway. And I know you were the same. So yeah, I don't know. Look, I've just got full respect for Mendoza because I didn't think he had the rate to or the work rate to go with Tim Tszyu. So. All right. Kyle says, I think he goes, Glenn says to Kyle, he thinks 160 would avoid Tim. And the PBC would pump up a belt at middleweight for him. Yeah, he'll have some other options. But that's if it's still inside there, Glenn. I'm not sure he's got. I think Tim made a good point yesterday when he said that, in his opinion, Charlo will probably take a year off and blow a little bit of that money that he made against Canelo. And then, who knows, might not even see him again. Who knows? Big J, what do we got there? I think that Tim is not getting going. He's not getting to get to the credibility internationally he deserves until he becomes undisputed. Similar to Haney, a long-time email champ until he beats Cambosis as well. Yeah. Look, I agree. As I don't bite sort of highlighted there that he doesn't obviously rate Tim. Come on, I don't bite. Just just go for a walk and get a few deep breaths into you, will you? Just got to chill out a little bit. Yeah, look, and you got D-Style in the comments there. He's probably the best one to ask as far as this goes. D-Style, just comment there. I'm a few minutes behind, so I'm sure it'll come up. But what is the American take? I know you and your panel are always very complimentary of Tim. I did see your video that you said that Tim's the number 154, including Charlo. But look, Americans are very, very hard to please when it comes to credibility, and quite rightly so. It is the home of boxing. I get it. And I think Americans want to see Tim win these types of fights in the States. And I'm probably taking words out of your mouth here, D-Style. You can let us know. But in my opinion, unless you're winning these big fights on American soil, they don't rate you. I don't. It was not as high as they probably as you probably should anyway. And I know Jeff Fennick really regrets not going over there more, although he's respected a lot over there, of course. But I just get the impression that unless you go and beat those guys in America, then you don't get the credit. Speaking of D-Style, he says Tim hurt him several times, but Mendoza just tough as nails. Mendoza also was crafty enough to survive the 11th where he took a beating. Yeah, he did really well. And, as I said, I didn't think he had it in him, D-Style, but I think Tim might have let him off a little bit in the last round, as I said, but just a great effort to survive. Cole also says it was the first time Mendoza went 12 rounds, I believe. Yeah, okay, I wasn't aware of that, mate. Yeah, you might be right, actually. He's been a few 12-round scheduled fights, but none of them have gone the distance. So, Big J, Crawford won't fight Tim for only one belt. Well, you never know, Big J. Who else is there to fight at 154? I can't see Terence Crawford jumping from 147 to 168. Maybe 160, but same. There's no really, there's no obviously unified champion at 160, and no really recognisable fighter at 160 either. Jermell maybe, but Tim's now, he's got a bit of credit out there now, and he is a WBO champion now. Crawford is the WBO, of course, undisputed champion at 147. But being the WBO champion, he gets the ability in the next division up to be the number one person in line or the number one challenger for that belt of which Tim holds. So I just might be gut feel, Big J, but I just think he'll want to go to 154, win a belt there, and then go to 160 or maybe 168 after that. I just can't see him jumping from 147 to 168. Or not even 160, I don't think. I reckon he's going to look at Tszyu now and see Tim as the perfect vehicle to go through 154 on the way to 160 or 168. But who knows? Yeah, okay. Crawford would bash Tim. That's your opinion, mate. Yep. Plenty of people out there agree with you. Cole says Crawford seems to be in limbo. Could easily retire tomorrow. Yeah, well, I don't see Crawford retiring without taking on another big fight, Kyle. I always think if he thought he only had 1 or 2 fights left in him, I think he would say, bring Canelo on, whatever, regardless of the circumstances and weight, whatever. Just bring Canelo on. I want that fight. So, and he's 36, remember? So I don't think he retires without taking at least one more big fight. I could see maybe going through Spence for the rematch, and then maybe jumping to Canelo if that's all he wanted to do. But if he wants to keep in the game for another couple of years, well, as I said, Tim makes perfect sense to go via 154 on the way to 160 and 168. But I think he's made no secret that boxing is now just about the big fights and the money. So we'll see. All right, D-Style. Saw Mendoza just tweeted out he will learn from this fight and come back stronger. I love the attitude. Great role model, as I said, D-Style. He's just an example to other fighters out there. Put it behind you. Of course, go and put in your best effort, then put it behind you and move on. It wasn't like he did cop some big punches, but I don't think it was a type of beatdown where it would struggle to come back with it. I think it was more his pride was hurt more than anything. Look, he was comprehensively beaten, but I don't think it was to the point where, where he was, he wasn't knocked down and beaten viciously. It was just a comprehensive beat down round by round. So I hope I made a point of that. I just don't think he took a lot of punishment that would hinder him going forward. So I hope he comes back, like you said there, mate, bigger and stronger. Purple Turtle. Now, there's a name for you. Tszyu made Mendoza look second rate. No knockout, but showed his maturity in that last round. Yeah, well, why take chances, mate? Because Canelo does it. All the greats did it. Mayweather, all the great fighters, if they had to fight one, wouldn't necessarily go for the knockout. Why would you? No use doing it. Okay, I'll put it on I don't bite. I'll have a look. Tim is there to be hit. His power is more of an accumulation. Lack of jab. Come forward plotter. Good solid representative for Australia, but will fall against Ramos. I don't know with this preoccupation with Ramos, mate. He lost his last fight to Erickson Lubin, who has been knocked out in the past and was a pretty big underdog. So I think a lot of Ramos as well, but let's not get ahead of ourselves there, mate. He needs to get back on the winners list. That long fight was comical. What fight was that there, Purple Turtle? Is that right? That long fight was comical. Fill us in there, mate. Ramos will get eaten. I'm with you there, Kyle. Look, I'm not sure he'll get eaten. I think it would be similar to the Mendoza fight. I think he would beat him down as a fight went on. But as I said, Ramos has got a long way to go yet. All right. I thought 10th was Tim's best round. Mendoza came back and won the 12th, though. Well, that's, as I said, mate, 12th round plus maybe one or two others tops. I don't know. All right. D-Style. I don't know if it was the Showtime broadcast, but the energy and building in the building didn't seem the same as Tim's other two fights this year. No, I don't think it was D-Style. As I said before, certainly wasn't the same as for the Harrison fight in Sydney. But yeah, so I don't know. I hope they got a fair bit of coin out of doing it, but I think sometimes you've got to forego the money from the government to put it in the best venue to put it at. And obviously that wasn't the best venue, but look, it was okay in there. As I said, when he got him hurt, the crowd went up, but it was a little bit flat, I will admit. But then again, so was the Kambosos and Haney fight at Rod Laver Arena that I went to a year ago too. So it just depends on, I suppose, the crowd that turns up. Mitch Cook says, looked like Hass Hamden had spent his entire camp watching Tyson highlights. He was way too comfortable getting inside and ripping to the body. He fought well, and what I said before wasn't necessarily about his fighting style. I just don't like to see a young guy like that, who I don't think is his natural personality, carry on like a pork chop like he did. Just let's learn the game first, listen to Jeff, get a few fights under your belt, a couple of these minor belts, and then go from there. And when you're headlining these cards, then knock yourself out. We saw it also with Mark Schliebs when he fought on the last card or the one before that against Rocky Ogden. I've never seen a young guy who's not really well known at all gob off so much, and look what happened. He got knocked out in one round. So sometimes you just got to be humble until you actually make it. Purple Turtle says Fennick needs to step back a bit, I think. Yeah, as I said, mate, I don't like to see Jeff get sucked in by all that. Because I just don't think it is in his personality to be able to do that. Ben Sub is obviously very adept at these types of things, doing it in a nice, calm way. Jeff's thing, he's a fighter. He's from the streets, so he doesn't really react well to, I suppose, conflict. He only knows one way, and that's with his fist, not with his mouth. So, I just don't think he needs to do it. But anyway, Dames Daly says the TV commentary for the first few fights on Fox Sports was embarrassing. Okay, well, obviously I didn't see it. I'll have to watch the replay. Who were the commentators? Well, obviously would have been Ben Damon, I'm imagining. Don't know. Let us know. Glenn says Ben and Danvers are great guys. Jeff and Hass, I'm assuming, are total knobs. Okay. I did meet Ben at the weigh-in and Danvers as well. I introduced myself to them, and they seem like really nice guys. But Jeff's a great guy. If you're on his right side, he's a great guy. If you're not on his right side, it might be a bit different. But I mean, I love Jeff Fennick. As I said, he's my all-time favourite Australian fighter. I've never met Hass Hamden, but as I said, just pull it in a bit there, Hass. D-Style. If Crawford fights Spence or Canelo, and Jermell goes to 160, who does Tim fight in the States? Seems if it's not Charlo, Canelo, or Crawford, he's better off fighting in Australia. Yeah, it is D-Style, but the problem is Tim wants to get to the States. He wants to get over there. As I said earlier, he sees it as his destiny. He's already said that this will be his last fight for a while in Australia. And why wouldn't he go over and fight a Lubin over there, or what do you got there? Crawford, Spence, or Charlo? Spence, Canelo, or Jermell, Charlo. Well, yeah, as I said, there's some other fights over there for him, but he wants to get over there amongst it. And the thing is, D-Style, no matter whether it's in Australia or in the States, as you know, it's all about the pay-per-view rather than the live gate. The live gate sometimes is just a cherry on top. The amount of people that will watch him fight in the States from over here, they're going to make an absolute ton of money wherever. So I think that's what it's about, mate. I think he just wants to go there like his father did and create his legacy in the States. Tszyu versus Lubin doesn't sound like a blockbuster in Vegas. No, I don't think it would be, but maybe it wouldn't be in Vegas. I don't know. Maybe it's LA. Who knows? Actually, I think, yeah, well, maybe they could do it in Vegas, but it's at one of those smaller venues. I don't know. But I'm with you. I don't think Tszyu Lubin sells out the MGM or whatever, but I'm sure there's a few other smaller stadiums in the States, in Vegas they could have it in. But You know, there's plenty of other casinos with little showrooms and ballrooms in there. Cole Champion says, D-Star, I think you get more money in Australia for that fight. Yeah, but as I said, Kyle, it's all about the pay-per-views, and he goes over there. He'll sell 1 million pay-per-views over there. So, England, and what's that there? England and May fight was great to watch. Yeah, it was a really, really good fight. Yep, really, really good fight, that one. Purple Turtle. Ramos beat Lubin. Well, in your opinion, I don't buy it. Or he did. Judges saw it otherwise. D-Star, people catching on to the fake trash talking now. To be honest, it's getting old, mate. I hear. I hate it. I just hate it. And that's why it was a breath of fresh air to see the girls and England and Nathaniel May. And also, we'll say Miguel Flores and Sam Goodman. That was just really well done as well, I thought. Asian fans are the most respectful. Yeah, I wouldn't say so, mate. If you count the Philippines as Asia, which it is, they're probably some of the comments coming out of their or on social media or whatever it might be after the Jeff Horn fight was disgraceful, to be honest, the way they carried on. It's okay to be unhappy about it, but I have to disagree with that, mate. If you saw after Inoue and Fulton, all the Japanese fans applauded Fulton after he left. Japanese are a little bit different there, mate. They are very respectful. I will give them just beautiful people, and they are very respectful. It's a little bit interesting watching a fight in Japan because they're not sure when to yell and scream and when not to. It's pretty funny, actually, but when Inoue fights, geez, it always ends just in one way, doesn't it? And that's in applause. But, yeah, look, Japanese, look, I think to label all Asians one way or the other is not right. As I said, the Philippines, some of the stuff that was coming from them after Horn beat Pacquiao was disgraceful. So, James Daly, Anastasia Tszyu, stop screaming. Yeah, I think she'd be a little bit embarrassed about it, mate. And I thought she was hilarious. She didn't stop the whole fight there, Glenn. She just jumping up and down and yelling and screaming. I think she was maybe oblivious to everyone watching her, but obviously everyone saw her because it's all over the news today. Amber Amelia had great offense working on the inside, but Porter is right. She needs to work on her guard. The problem with Amber Amelia, Kyle, was that there was no head movement. She just kept coming straight ahead, and it was just straight left, straight right, one after the other. Very, very predictable, and sometimes it was a matter of whose right hand would land first, and she caught some. She needs to move the head a little bit more, mix up the punches a little bit more. But, yeah, it could have gone either way, but, yeah, I'm with you on that. The defense needs a bit of work. Not so much her guard, I didn't think, but it's more so, again, that's just that head movement, mixing up the straights with the uppercuts and hooks and that sort of stuff. She was just pretty much left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right the whole time. So I'm sure she'll improve. Amber needs to go down a weight class or two. Yeah, the size difference was just crazy, wasn't it? I did see that she's very heavily set from the hips down, really solid legs, really chunky, or not chunky, solid in the hips and the waist area, where Chanel Dargan was very, very lean. So, yeah, maybe one division she could maybe glean. I agree. I noticed Kostadzu doesn't support Tim. Any reason for that? It's not that he doesn't support him, mate. He's in Russia. Doesn't like to get out of Russia these days. Always watches it on live stream. Someone always live streams it for him. Our man Tazzy Brown live streams it for Costa. He always watches it live. So it's not that he doesn't support him. He now lives in Russia, and it's probably a big thing to come out here. There was talk that he was going to go to the States and watch him over there, but I don't know. That's between them, I suppose. And Kyle, yeah, Amber did look a little undersized. D-Style, her husband in ring with a big puncher. She wants to yell support him, so be it. That's actually his sister there, D-Style, Anastasia. That's his young 21-year-old sister. Tell you what, she could probably go a bit as well, I reckon. She was putting a bit of effort into the barracking for or rooting, as you would call it, in the States. Yep, that's the sister, mate. Yep. I'll keep going now. I'll be careful what I put on the screen here. Yeah, exactly there, D-Style. How do you know he doesn't support his son? He always posts on his social media about his son's fights. Yeah, he does. Just because he doesn't fly all the way out to Australia doesn't mean that he doesn't support his sons. Mick Tabor says, to D-Style, love your channel, mate. Yes, I do too. And if you haven't followed D-Style's channel, make sure you get on there. Some of the best boxing content you'll see on the net or on YouTube, whatever it might be. especially the round table, which I've been part of half a dozen times. Some very, very good boxing people on that there, that on that show, that know what they're talking about. And of course, D-Style puts probably 3 or 4 different videos out a week. So get on it. The D-Style Boxing channel. Mick says they say Showtime don't want to pay the Crawford Spence rematch. Okay, well, what numbers did it do, Mick? I'm not quite sure. I'm assuming it did really good figures as far as everything goes, but I'm not quite sure what the actual numbers were. Actually, having said that, was it 700? Have I got the wrong fight? But yeah. Anyway, well, everything's negotiable, I suppose, as far as money goes. Asbot says, if Ramos backed up Lubin for most of the fight, Lubin has no chance against Tszyu. I 100% agree with that one there, mate. Showtime is finished in boxing. I hope that's not the case, Glenn. I know that there is all the talk about that. I'm not sure it's been officially announced yet, but I would hate to see that, especially after losing HBO a few years ago as well. I don't see Costa at events or in Tim's corner. Doesn't seem very supportive, if you ask me. Well, that's your opinion. Yeah, good point there, D-Style. Not every dad hogs the spotlight like Tszyu Senior. Yes, 100% there, mate, and others like him as well. Just going to put my hand up there and see if I can reset my camera there because it's a bit out of focus. All right, there we go. What do we got there? A new sub. Who's how do I pronounce that? Perceptions Music. Hey, new sub. How are you, mate? Thanks for joining in the show. I hope you're a boxing fan, because that's what we talk on this channel. James Daly. Spence versus Crawford was difficult to make and didn't justify a rematch, which doesn't generate as much money. Yeah, well, good point there, James. And look, I wouldn't be too stressed about the whole thing if it's decided that Spence will go up and fight maybe, I don't know, Lubin, and Crawford will go up and fight Tszyu. No dramas whatsoever. No, there's no reason, apart from whether it's in the contract, whether they do it straight away. I don't think there's a big need for it. And actually, I think Spence needs another fight in between that. And I don't know what the hurry with the whole thing is, why he would be rushing to fight Crawford again. What's wrong with going up and fighting, let's just say it's Lubin, or even, I wouldn't encourage him to fight Tszyu at the moment, coming off the Crawford loss. But what's wrong going up and fighting Lubin and getting the fight with him, getting the win, let Tim and Crawford fight, and then fighting the winner of that? Yes, and my wife just instructed me to tell old mate, the dog bite, or wherever it was, that it is a 22-hour flight from Russia to Australia. So maybe take that into consideration as well. And not cheap, I wouldn't have thought. I'm sure no limited fly cost her out, but 22 hours, that's a long way. 22 hours, that's a long, long way to go, isn't it? D-Style, Triple G let himself go. I've seen photos of him promoting his new energy drink. I would hope that Triple G is done and dusted there, D-Style. Let's hope that's the case. Old mate says to I don't bite. There was only one Aussie judge for yesterday's fight, you dickhead. Yeah, that was Adam Height too, and he scored it perfectly. I think he's just having a bit of a Lendivus there, Big J. What do we got there? Perceptions Music. I like the idea of Crawford and Tszyu. Still think Jermell and Tim is the fight to make. Yeah, well, who knows, mate? It's just hard to think what goes through Jermell Charlo's head. I don't know. And I've said here a few times, until it's signed, sealed, and delivered, I just wait and see, and don't sort of cast too many aspersions onto it. Bacon and Eggs. We've got some classic names on tonight. G'day, fellas. G'day to you too, mate. Great to have you on the show. I've never seen Bite. Well, I don't bite. Why don't you get on D-Style's channel and give him a hard time? What do you got to say there? Not like Tszyu Senior, but I'd like to. I think being around the event, don't you? Maybe it's just me. Whoa, apparently you know him, D-Style. What do we got there? Yeah, it's you, Bite, you're an idiot. And another good point, by the way, is that, of course, Costa lives in Russia with the whole war going on in Ukraine. I don't know if they're allowed to leave or have to have special permission or whatever the hell it is, but just maybe do your homework. All right, North London, I'll be careful about this because you normally have a bit of a crack too. What do we got? Ruiz versus Wilder. They are arguing again about a fight that never happens again. Until it happens, mate, let's move on that one, because is it Wilder and Joshua, or is it Wilder and Ruiz? Is it Joshua Ruiz 3? Is it Fury? Now, what's going on with that? That fight's, is that next weekend or week after? I haven't taken any notice at all. I don't care about Fury and the guy who I'm talking about here. And by the way, while I speak of that, do not bring up the other YouTube shit show on the weekend, because I'm going to go straight past those comments. I don't want to know. I didn't see 1 second of the fight. I don't want to see it. I'm not even going to mention their names, but it was a YouTube fight that was yesterday. Absolute insult to our sport. And please, I had people say that they didn't get the Tszyu fight, but they paid for that. I can't believe you actually had to pay for it, by the way. But you forewent that to the Tszyu card to watch that shit. Anyway, enough of that. We're giving it too much time already. I thought Tim would just win. Just thought it was going to be closer. I thought Tim showed a lot with how he kept the hard shots going all night. Just a complete performance, mate. Just did what he had to do. And that's all you have to do in this game is win. Doesn't matter how you go about it. Just win and keep winning. And that's all they've got to do. Oh, hang on. We've got, what do we got here? This is from Kyle. Australia is almost wrapped up for this year on the world stage, I believe. I think Michael Zarafa is fighting in December. Who knows? And then we just have the two girls in Sky and Ebony. Anybody else? I can tell you there has been talk. I know the Maloney boys were really trying to get something up before the end of the year. I'm not quite sure whether that will happen. Of course, we've got Justice Honey. Is it this weekend or the weekend after? Fighting, I always forget who he's, Tabiti. So that should be a really good fight for him. I think that's about it for this year, I reckon, mate. As far as Zarafa goes, well, is there evidence that he's fighting? I haven't seen it. I've looked all over. I don't see anything about it. And I think I said on, might have been this show or the wrap up or the week in the weekly roundup, whatever I do, that Lara and Garcia were supposed to fight, and of course Zarafa was supposed to fight on the undercard. Now there's been no mention of that fight happening again. I did say that Garcia was supposed to fight on a card in December. No mention of fighting Lara. No mention of Michael Zarafa being on the undercard. I don't know. All I know is it's been 12 months since Michael's been in the ring. He's foregone 2 guaranteed world title fights. And he's sitting on the shelf for an entire year with nothing, as far as I can see, 100% locked in. So, again, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I don't know what his manager is thinking. But, at 30 years of age, the best years are just being wasted. And I've got a lot of respect for Michael Zarafa for what he's done, but I don't know what the hell is going on in his career. I really don't. Maybe I'll end up, have egg on my face because next week it'll be announced and he'll fight for the title and it'll all be great. He'll make $10 million. I hope he does. But at the moment, I don't know, again, who's calling the shots. I know it's Elvis Grant, but, geez, come on, guys. The guy's 30 years old. He's had 4 fights in 4 years. And one of those was a 60-second knockout of Anthony Mundine. So he would have had shadow boxing sessions harder than that. He had the Fijian that he barely would have got out of first gear for. Hardman, of course, great fight. Still only went 2 rounds. And he had the 10 rounds of whatever you want to call it against Creative. So 4 fights in those 4 years. And of all of them, apart from the Hardman fight, but again, he only got 2 rounds out of that. Just nothing fights. So don't know. I don't know. North London do what the Brits do and take the USA belts and ignore them. Yeah, that's a good point, mate. Obviously, with a name like that, you're an Englishman. Bacon and Egg says, Americans praise the divas and shit on the rest. They're a hard bunch to please over there. I get off all the... I never comment because I just can't stand the comments you get in reply. There's a lot of... what they say, keyboard warriors out there, especially in boxing. Oh, my God. So you see them on all the Facebook pages and on the forums or whatever. Oh, there's some winners out there. Mitch, what's it going to take to see someone flip the roles and put the pressure on Tim? Yes, good point. Other than the first round, it was another fight of Tim on the front foot, backing his opponent up the whole time. Well, it's one of those cases, mate. Easier said than done, I think. It's a bit like Triple G. Why didn't someone back him up? I know Canelo ended up doing it, but he's another, obviously, super elite fighter. Look at... the thing is, my opinion with someone like Tim, he likes to come forward, but he likes to counterpunch as he comes forward. So he takes center ring, makes you punch first on the back foot, and then he comes over the top. I would just like to see, again, it's easier said than done, maybe someone come and just start throwing bombs. Let's not forget that that's the way that Vince Phillips beat Tszyu. Tszyu used to be the same sort of fight. I know different dimensions and everything else, but the same sort of thing. Take center ring, do it all at your own pace, and it took Vince Phillips to keep bowling in the right, overhand right after overhand right after overhand right, and eventually they took the toll. And then obviously Ricky Hatton got on his chest. I don't know. It's easy from outside the ring, isn't it, Mitch? But yeah, maybe that's what might happen. Charlo's not going to do it. I wouldn't think Crawford does it. I can't really see anyone apart from Canelo actually doing that, to be honest. So, yeah, when you're that elite, though, Mitch, I mean, you make these fights look easy and you make it look like it's all going, your way. So, I don't know. Great fighters make, as I said, make it look easy, and he made it look easy. But maybe it'll be someone who'll come out and just start bowling punches. Who knows? Mark Wynn says, this is why I follow D-Style. Always quality, unbiased comments. Cheers, mate. Yeah, 100% there, Mark. I agree. Tyson Fury got the WBC belt hostage, and USA got no heavyweights to fight him. Yeah, and now he's just doing what he wants there, mate. He's fighting the Ngannou and the Usyk fight. Hopefully will come off, but when it comes to Tyson Fury, who knows, mate? D-Style. There's definitely a divide with American fight fans since the emergence of the app showing foreign boxing. More fight fans here have gotten to follow fighters from all over the world. Well, that's one good thing about the social media at the moment, isn't it, mate? I mean, you probably wouldn't have got much of Tszyu over the journey. It's great that his last 3 fights have been on Showtime, I will say. But, yeah, it is one good thing. And not just from the Americans seeing Aussies and whoever. I think it's great you can get on there and see fights from England that you mightn't have necessarily seen on our TV over here, and even more obscure fights in the States that we mightn't have got here either. So it's one good thing about social media and the internet, I suppose. We've all had an opportunity to see a lot more fights than what we used to get in the past when you're relying on free-to-air and also cable or pay-per-view or whatever it might be. Asbot, I think I don't bite. He's actually Michael Zarafa. Good call there, mate. Is that you, Michael, out there? Mate, you can come on as yourself. We'd love to have you on. If you want to dial in, I'll get you on. No problems whatsoever. I don't think he's overly happy with me for some reason. I don't think he likes some of the things I've said, but I've always said I've never said anything on this show or any of the programs I've ever put on that I wouldn't be willing to say to their face. It's just my opinion. I don't try and be spiteful towards any particular fighter. I just have my opinion. So if you've got something to say, anyone out there, any fighters don't agree with me, come on, I'm happily, not to debate, but at least discuss and give you your platform. D-Style, getting through the comments there. There's a segment of ignorant fight fans that think it's USA #1 no matter what, and are very ignorant of lower weight classes and overseas fighters. Yeah, mate, I think that's the same everywhere. I think a lot of fight fans, even here, think it's that Tszyu is it for a lot of guys here. But as I'm sure it would be for the Pommies as well. All right, I don't bite says Janabek versus Jermell Charlo right now. Who do you have? I have Janabek, mate. No problems at all. He is an animal. And I just don't think Jermell Charlo's in the right frame of mind at the moment to have someone like Janabek in his face. The guy can punch and he's hard. The Russians are just hard bastards. So, yeah, definitely Janabek there, mate. Saw him fight live, actually, early in the year there when Jason Maloney beat Australobio in, where was it? California? Stockton, California. And I know his opponent wasn't overly great, but, geez, the guy is just a beast. Kyle says, Asbot, if you can prove that, I'll fall out of my chair. Now, did I miss... Oh, yeah, about being Zarafa. Yeah, Michael, we love you, mate. Not everyone out there, I know they don't. But we all want to see Aussies succeed, don't we? I don't know. Adam says, as I don't bite, you're a goose. Who cares if Costa isn't in the corner? Yeah, I think I'll let you guys deal with that in the chat. Big J, there is a new IBF WBO 160-pound champion, Janabek. I won't even try and pronounce that. I can't pronounce the Russian names. Defeated Vincenzo Gutierrez for his IBF belt yesterday in the States. Yep, he is a class fighter, no doubt. And what would someone like Janabek do to Michael Zarafa? I just don't think that ends well for Michael. I don't mean, again, I know he's already pissed at me why he would like me to say that, but from what I've seen of that, that's a 2 or 3 round demolition job, if you ask me. D-Style, I've seen Tim for like a dozen fights where it was, where if it was 10 years ago, First time I'd ever seen Tim was Gausha fight. Is that right? Okay. Well, at least you've seen him now, mate. And probably wasn't the greatest start, obviously, to seeing Tim over there. But I think that was the only round that Gausha won in that fight. But Tim, again, like a good fighter does, got the job done, and that's all he can do. Asbot says, Tim and Costa have a very close connection, according to Tim himself. Yeah, we always see them, talking online to each other and everything else. So no issues there. D-Style, Ramos had a terrible performance versus Lubin. He failed to win the crowd and the fight. I think he will be okay. He's only 22 years old, 100%, mate. I actually did think he won that fight for what it's worth, but he just took his foot off in the last couple of rounds and gave the opening to Lubin. I don't think Lubin did anything really to take the fight, but Ramos had the fight, I thought, in his keeping. And for whatever reason, just slowed down a bit and allowed Lubin to win a few of those late rounds, and it cost him the fight. Oh, okay, yeah. Ramos versus Fundora can be made. That would be a great fight there. Geez, who would I have in that? I reckon I have Ramos to win that fight. D-Style, I'm not sure what you guys think. Okay, says, I don't bite. Costa and Tim have a great relationship. I was just asking. Not sure you're asking, but anyway. Asbot, it could be Tim's Shadow Giraffe. Could be Tim's Shadow Giraffe. Yeah, it could be. James Daly, Barry Michael, and Lieutenant Dan Hennessy. Thumbs down. Was Barry Michael there? I didn't even see him there. Was he there? Billy Did was caught between a rock and a hard place. Again, I haven't seen any of the commentary. I did see Lieutenant Dan there. I don't want to be too hard on Dan. I actually had a chat to him after the fight yesterday, Lieutenant Dan. I saw him as we were crossing the street out of the stadium. But all I would like to hear, Dan, maybe reinvent a little bit more material, because you can only go so much with somebody somewhere. Please make some noise, and you can almost just predict it. And it falls a little bit flat. It was great, probably a bit like the first time you heard Michael Buffer say, "Let's get ready to rumble." Nowadays, it's a little bit okay. It's a little bit ho hum. I know that's Michael Buffer's catchphrase, but Lieutenant Dan does a really, really good job. One thing I will say to Dan, I don't like is during the rounds by saying, "Come on, let's make some noise." There's a minute to go. You don't see that in the States. You don't see the announcer coming on during the rounds and telling people to raise their applause or yell and scream, whatever it might be. Dan, just let it go. Get the crowd going. I know you like to throw the confetti up in the air or the notes, whatever it might be, but maybe just a little bit, like a comedian does, just get a little bit more material. But I think he does a great job. And Barry Michael, I must admit, James, I actually have a lot of time for Barry Michael. I think he's a really, really good commentator. But again, I didn't see him yesterday, so I'm not sure. Or obviously see the footage, I'm not sure. Team Batman Boxing. Hi, mate. Thanks for joining in the show. What do we got? Hang on, by North London. Saudi Arabia now, the big places for boxing. It's all about the money. Tyson Fury earning $200 million for boxing events in Saudi. Francis and Usyk, yeah. I get it why they've got to take the money there, mate. But look, let's just say it's Fury and Joshua, probably the biggest British fight of all time, arguably the biggest British fight of all time. Now, is there possibly they could take that fight and put it in Saudi Arabia? Now, if I was Eddie Hearn, I don't care what they're throwing at me as far as dollars goes. Put the fight in England. Jeez, I mean, that's the only thing I don't like at North London is that. It's just all about, I get it, it's about the money, but geez, that would just be a travesty to see Joshua and Fury in Saudi Arabia, wouldn't it? But anyway, Tszyu versus Lubin in El Paso, I wouldn't complain. Well, mate, as you know better than anyone, fight fans down that way love their boxing, and that would be massive. That's what I love about those smaller cities, is that, we saw it in Stockton, I saw it in Oklahoma, they're just great sort of boxing cities, and good point, a really good point. As I said, all the money's by the pay-per-view, and any fight with Tim Tszyu in Australia sells an absolute shitload of views. Batman says, forget that, come sell, put that at the end, is that the Manchester Arena with Eubank? Yeah, I would love to see that too, Batman. Is he middleweight though, isn't he, Eubank? So maybe Tim moves up, who knows? I don't think he's going to give up the WBO belt too soon though, Batman. So maybe that Eubank fight might happen down the track. Selling Batman, forget that. Do this UK fight now. 21,000 sell out for Tszyu versus Eubank. Would give him a beating. And you like Eubank. Yeah, it would be a great fight, wouldn't it? I'm going through the comments here, guys. North London says Ben versus Eubank. Ben being cleared of eating female fertility substances. Eddie Hearn done his magic. Oh, come on. I don't bite. My apologies. I'm a retarded American. Come on. Don't get all butthurt on us, mate. You come on here and you want to come on an Australian site and roll up the Aussies. Of course, they're going to come back at you. So just don't get all bent out of shape about it now. All right. Minnesota Mick, how are you, mate? As I get my camera right again there. Big news dropping this week for an Aussie fighter, according to Noonan Boy. Which fighter would that be? Is it Sam Goodman? I know he's talking about him fighting again in December. Who is it? Where are you, Noonan Boy? If you're watching, mate, come on here and let us know. Or it could be Ebony Bridges, or I don't know. Who knows? All right, we'll keep going. And yes, thanks, Andy. How are you there, mate? Smash that like button, folks. Yes, like the page, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Was that C Perception Music? I think Tim Tszyu could have finished the fight in the 10th or 11th with a few more hard shots to the body. Seemed like Brian was hurt to the body. Yeah, no, as they don't call him the soul taker for nothing there, mate. What do we got there? Peter Nutt, how are you, mate? How do you think Obertai can go as a future heavyweight? I think he can go very, very well, Peter. If Usyk can do it, I've got no doubt Jai Obertai can do it. I think he'll obviously bulk up a little bit, but I just think very similar to Usyk, same sort of style. He's being a southpaw. Okay. And just on the big news about to drop for an Aussie, it could be George Kambosos. Look out for that one. I do know a little bit about the George fight. I think I mentioned it last week. If it all comes off, the venue or the location is the one thing that's going to surprise a lot of people out there about where they're going to hold it if my mail is correct with George's next fight. So stay tuned for that one. Looks like there's a lot of sponsorship money from certain cities out there at the moment to bring the big events to them. Of course, I can now see the benefits to bringing big fights in, forking out a couple of mil to get it there. But yeah, it will surprise. But to answer your question there, Peter, I think he can go very, very well at heavyweight. What do we got there? Andy, you're late to the party. Batman says plenty of options for Tim. If Charlo doesn't go back to 154, yeah, he's now the man, mate, 100%. All right, we'll keep going down there. Hang on. Oh yeah, Lubin gets stopped by Tszyu. I'm assuming you say there. Yeah, I think so. I think too. Look, it wouldn't surprise me, Batman, if Lubin goes a distance with Tim. He might go into survival mode and just last a distance, but I think Tim wins that fight very comprehensively. North London says UFC dumping Usada, but Eddie Hearn been ignoring that for years. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, mate, but yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Batman says Tszyu would KO Lubin. No doubt Tim is the main man at 154, especially with Charlo not coming back. Yep, I agree with that. I don't buy. I don't think the host is very happy with me. I subbed, hey, mate, it's all good. I don't care who comes on here. It's just what I'm saying is don't expect the feedback when you just put the carrot out there for the Aussies to bite because we are, or the hook out there to bite because we will. But it's all good. We love all our viewers on here. Don't stress about it. Peter Nutt says again, love to see a massive card with Obertai and Tszyu fight on the same card in Melbourne at Marvel Stadium in front of 50,000. Don't think it's going to happen. That Peter, be great. They're all with different not sanctioned body promotional companies, and let's just say it's complicated with all these different firms all involved. You've got Obertai with Tasman / Matchroom, then you've got Tim with No Limit. So then you've got the Maloney boys and George with Top Rank. Let's just say it gets complicated. But I would love to see that too, mate. D-Style says Lubin fight versus Tim would be similar to Harrison. Yeah, I agree. Tim Tszyu would give Spence an absolute beating. Yeah, I'm not going to jump to that conclusion just yet, Batman, because I mean, based on the last fight against Crawford, I see where you're coming from. But let's not forget that before that, Spence was a very, very dominant fighter at welterweight. So I think the Spence from a couple of years ago would give Tim a hard time. So whether he can get back to that level. So, but based on that last fight, Tim wins that fight by stoppage, if you ask me. Andy, what do we got there, mate? Jermell ordered to do IBF, so that's out. Yep. Bud versus Spence 2, likely in Feb, so out too. Yep. Lubin fight versus Tim will sit and wait on Jermell rematch. I would fight Lubin if I was Tim Tszyu. If I can't get the Crawford fight, if that's happening, like you said there in Feb, Lubin, perfect fight for him. Let's make it happen. Peter Nutt says, can't believe that Tszyu management haven't had the brains to let him fight at Marvel Stadium in Melbourne. It just comes down to dollars, Peter. That's all that comes down to. What these promoters do, and quite rightly so, they're all in it to make money. They go to each city, they get them to submit their proposal, and they just simply take the city that gives them the most money. I am staggered, though, that Melbourne, especially with and I do know for a fact there's a lot of money out there from the Victorian government to bring events to the state, especially regionally, because of the Commonwealth Games fiasco. Was it Dan Andrews? $380 million he just threw away to not have a games there. We won't get into all that now. He's gone, and good riddance to him. But it just comes down to money, Peter. I think Tim would love to fight in Melbourne, but Gold Coast obviously come up with more money, so we'll see. But yeah, I am surprised that someone didn't say, hey, let's go to the Victorian government, see what we can get out of them. Because as I said, I know for a fact there's a lot of money on the table to make up for that shit show. Brad Reed, how are you, mate? Welcome to the show. Tim's defensive skills was amazing, very underrated. Yeah, mate, he was for sure. Just he improves with every fight. Who's that? Lou Pitt 69. I hope the Americans know Tim is no joke. I agree, Mo. I'm sure they do now, 100%. Andy Wilder was waiting on $1 million fight versus AJ before the Saudis changed their minds. Yeah, that is correct, mate. Apparently the Saudis went cold on that fight. Eddie trying to find dollars, but Wilder versus Ruiz is quality fight versus action. I'd like to see that fight. I think that'd be really Wilder Ruiz. I think Wilder wins it by knockout, but that'd be an entertaining fight. Well, it depends. I think Ruiz. I think the plan, because the height difference will be massive. I think if Ruiz actually gets on his chest and stays there, then Ruiz wins. Because Wilder, as we all know, has just always got is that one big punch. Skills are shocking. Stamina is shocking. But he gets the job done with that right hand. So I think if Ruiz sits on his chest, Ruiz wins. But if he stands at a distance or Wilder puts him at a distance, then Wilder can win. I like the fight. Peter Nutt, I think Zarafa is fighting this bloke. There you go. Thanks, Minnesota Mick. Zarafa isn't fighting on any cards over here. That's what I thought. There's been no mention of anything. I know Michael's put it on his socials, but I haven't seen anything. So until I see it somewhere, it's what is going on. Michael's been out for 12 months. 12 months. I just don't get it. Zarafa, they said September, November. Now it's December. I don't either. I would be staggered if it happens before the end of the year. I'll be staggered if we see the Lara Garcia fight in general. So where does that put Michael Zarafa? I don't know. Well, if someone's out there, Michael or his team or someone, a friend, let us know what's going on, because at the moment all I see is he's more active on social media than what he is in the ring. Michael, just forget all the shit that's going on with Tim Tszyu and the Australian fans and the back and forth. Let's just get a fight locked in, mate. Because the best years of your life are fast, like disappearing. So let's go. Peter Nutt, Zarafa needs to get the same management as Tim Tszyu. Well, similar to Tim Tszyu, his management would never take on Zarafa. But I know what you're saying there, mate. He needs someone Australian-based. This guy's in America, has no idea what's going on over here and what Michael's up to. Just plenty of good guys in it, or plenty of good managers in Australia. And he's had some good management, but for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out. Anyway. James, what do we got there? I doubt Charlo versus Murta Zaliyev and Crawford versus Spence will happen. I agree there, James, with you there. And yes, Zarafa has very poor management, in our humble opinion. That is, of course. Good luck to Zarafa landing that. D-Style, is there any word on the street over there, mate? Actually, while we got you, D-Style, does anyone over there know who Michael Zarafa is? And what's he standing over there? I'm not saying it to be smart. I'm just saying, we spoke before about exposure to, say, Australian fighters. Does anyone over there know anything at all about Michael Zarafa and what's going on? Batman, Tim Tszyu, pressure is amazing. Really, it just drains his opponent. Those fights are even more one-sided than the scorecard. Yep, I hear you there, mate. Just wanted to say I'm an American, and Tim Tszyu is honestly my favourite fighter right now. That's great, mate. Really great to hear that. That's awesome. I think Michael needs Eddie Hearn at this stage, mate. Who better? Is obviously Australian fighters are on the radar of promoters like Eddie Hearn. Why not take him on? Great idea. Or even a I was going to say a Tasman fighter. They've got the zone or whatever, but I don't know. If you're that infatuated with America, get over there and, like you said, get over or England, whatever. But just sitting here rotting in Australia, I just don't get it. We've got a few more comments to get through before we finish up. Yeah, definitely have to favour Janabek over Jermell at this point. I agree. Jermell, best bet at middleweight. Lara Garcia, WBA winner. Yeah, well, apparently supposed to be Michael Zarafa though, Andy. So I don't know what the hell is going on. D-style. All right, Rodney Neeson. Hi, mate. The paper champ gave a phone book flogging. Hey, hang on. Are you another hater? The paper champ. It's not his fault he was given the title there, Rodney. It was, or an email champ, whatever they call him. It wasn't his fault. He was penciled in to fight Charlo. Charlo pulled out. Tim was more than happy to fight him again. So it's not his fault, mate. And I think if you ask Tim, he's the first one to say that he won't be, in his mind, the champ until he beats Charlo. So let's go a little bit easy on the paper champ sort of stuff. I'm sure someone else has had a bit to say there as well. Petered up. If I'm Tszyu, I'm going all in fighting Spence at Marvel Stadium, 50,000. Pay the money. Yeah, you've got to be careful with the big stadium fights, Peter. They just talk about lack of atmosphere. It's like Marvel Stadium. 50,000 for the football, another 20,000 on the ground. They're not getting 70,000 there. And the Cambosis Haney fight was flat as a tack as far as atmosphere goes. Just gets lost in the stadium. Put it at Rod Laver, 10,000 people in there, pack them in, and blow the roof off the joint. Anyone see Mendoza trying to knock Tim's right hand down so he could get an opening? I did see that, but Tim's hand stayed there, solid as a rock. Yeah, well, Tim's the sort of guy, you know, he reads the play pretty well. I did see that though, Rodney, and he didn't do it again after that, did he? Because Tim just didn't fall for it. Do you think Opatai would beat Joshua at a catchweight? Ooh, yes, I do, actually, 100%. I think even at heavyweight, I think Jai Opatai wins the fight. I think Joshua's far too slow. I think he's lost the desire. I think Opatai wins that fight. To see Janabek in competitive fights, you'll have to really watch his amateur fights. His fight with Beck Bully was a tough fight for Janabek. Lost that quite wide, but I've lost that one there. But the Russian is a lot bigger. Janabek is the man at 160 currently. I agree there, mate. D-Style, El Paso, not that small though, 700,000. Well, that would still be a perfect place to put it. And then Juarez, Mexico, right across the border with 3 million people. De La Hoya did 50,000 at Sunbar, but yeah, we won't get the Tszyu fight. If it's Texas, I'll do San Antonio or Dallas. Okay. Doesn't matter where it is down there, mate. I would love to see it. I'd love down south. I love Texas. I'd be there in 2 seconds flat. And all the fights down there sell. And I would think that... I would think that they would take to Tim Tszyu over there. And I don't think they're going to get 50,000 there, of course. But, geez, they might get 15 or 20. Who knows? Shamrock says, I believe it was Michael Chavallo commentating the undercard. Okay, I really like him. Again, I didn't see it, but he's a good commentator. We need to see more of him, I think. I think he's really good. Is it George versus Loma? Yeah, that's what it's looking at being Batman. George versus Loma. But as I said, the location is something that will surprise everyone out there. Very tough ask for Cambosis. Yeah, agree. To be honest, Vegas should work for Tim or Los Angeles. I'm sure they'll find somewhere in Vegas to put the fight there, mate. Lubin only goes the distance versus Tszyu if he decides to be negative. Yeah, I agree. Sounds like it's a big fight happening in December from Noonan Boy. I thought it was January or February there, Minnesota Mick. But it was from Noonan Boy. He knows. He's got the finger on the pulse on everything. But I would say... if it's December 23rd, well, I don't think it's going to be an Australian fighter unless maybe Ebony Bridges is going to fight on the undercard of one of those big English shows they're putting on over there. But if it's an Aussie, the only one I can think of is George, and we're only about 10 weeks away from that date. I'm not sure whether they can get it together in that time. But anyway, as I said, Noonan Boy's the man. He'll let us know. Anyone know if Tim is the interim WBC champ now? No, he's not, mate. The WBC interim belt was not on the line. As Batman has, beat me to the punch there. Surely Mendoza can't remain the WBC interim. I'm not sure what's going to happen there, D-Style, but I know, what's his name, the WBC president, Suleiman, said that he was really disappointed that the interim title was on the line, so maybe they strip him out of spite. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened there. A couple more comments to get through. Charlo versus Ramos and Tim versus Lubin on undercard. Winners fight each other. I don't think you're going to see Tim on an undercard anymore, mate. I think you're going to see he wants to go to Vegas and headline. I think he deserves that. Oh, look, having said that, if it's a co-main event sort of thing, you never know. If there's a guarantee that the two will fight each other, I think Tim would say, okay, no problem. But at this stage, can we really believe anything that Charlo says? I'm not quite sure. Watch Crawford versus Spence be for vacant WBC 154 pound title. Yeah, well, they won't do it for other fighters, but I'm sure Crawford and Spence could twist their arm. Yeah, it's a good point, D-Style. I like that. And Andy, yeah, I agree. Tim is a headliner. Don't see him being an undercard, except in that situation where it used to be the way back in the day. You'd have two big fights and the two winners would fight each other. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Peter Knight, American still calls Tszyu the email champ. Yeah, I get it. It's a bit hard when the bloke with the belts keep running. Yeah, as I said, surely even the most cynical fight fans over there realise it's not Tim's fault that Charlo gave up the belt, or didn't give up the belt, but wouldn't fight Tim, and the WBO stripped him. It's as simple as that. James Brown, there is some decent local competition for Zarafa. There is, but he's not interested in that anymore, James. He wants the big fights as well. Peter, I'm not seeing American fans in general doing that. It's a few Charlo fans saying that, which happens to be American. Yeah, it's always the way. There's always a bit of argy-bargy. Andy says, Tim fighting the likely number 3 guy, Mendoza, at super welterweight kills that email champ crap. I agree, mate. 100%. I think that fight legitimizes Tim as the real world champion. As the full champion. There's no one else in that division, apart from Charlo, that you would say, okay, well, it would have been better to fight him to get the credit. Just me. I think that they were the two best available to fight, and they fought each other. Tim won. He's the 154-pound legitimate champion, if you ask me. All right. Peter Nutt, Americans called Devin Haney an email champ when Loma was elevated to franchise status and dropped the WBC belt, so don't feel bad. Yeah, it was a whole circus, that was. I won't spend time going on that because we've all gone over it. I'm probably the only American that knows who Zarafa is. Don't tell him that, mate. Don't tell him that. I only know Zarafa because of the Horn fight. Yeah, they were great fights. Peter Nutt, D-Style, you need to read the comments on Tszyu from America after the Mendoza fight. They were very salty. Yeah, I haven't seen any yet, Peter. That's a shame if that's the case. Lupit69 says, Zarafa is looking for a big payday. I think he'll be waiting for a while. Yep, I agree. D-Style, a bit more known in the UK for his fight with Brook, but still nobody knows him here either. James Brown says, Tim has cemented his standing now. Yeah, 100%, mate. And Minnesota Mick says, I'm on the east coast of the USA and no one knows that Zarafa. He ain't getting any media anywhere. He's not really getting much here either, Minnesota. He only gets it when he has something to say about Tim Tszyu. All the social media sites here jump on it. But, as I said, I've got no dramas with Michael. I just more fighting, less talking. That's all I'm saying. Melbourne loves the boxing. They certainly do, mate. Opatai versus Usyk. Who wins? Geez, now you got me. I can't pick a winner in that one. If anything, because they're so similar in style, I can't pick a winner. I'll probably maybe have to sway with Usyk just because of his experience level and quality of fights. I don't know, but very, very similar styles. Although Jai likes to plant his feet a little bit more and bang. So, don't know. But what a fight that would be as well. James says, Spence won't draw enough people for a stadium. No, I agree. And Usyk at the moment. Yep, for Opatai and Usyk. D-Style, Suleiman wanted that 3% from Tim. Certainly did, mate. That's the only reason he was disappointed. He didn't get the 3%. 100%. Minnesota Mick, we love Cambosis and we like the Maloney's and Tszyu too. They keep active. I don't know why you talk about Zarafa. He ain't nobody over here. Okay, well, let's stop talking about him then. Andy, what about Regis coming out with rumours Devon lost the fight in Mexico? I did see that early in his career and paid to make it disappear. Well, again, I'm not going to believe anything just yet. I know Devon came out strongly and denied it, but hey, Regis is obviously he's heard it somewhere, and everyone's having a bit of a debate about it. But who knows? It's in Mexico; anything can happen. So it wouldn't surprise me. But until it's proven, I'll just stay on the fence with that one there, mate. Andy again. I won't entertain hypotheticals. Prefer Jai Pataya, Unify ASAP. I think you'll find that, Andy. I know I spoke to Mick Francis, his promoter, a week or two ago after they just got back from England. I think the plan is to go to England and beat those cruiserweights over there, build more of his profile. And I don't blame him. Go over. That's where the money is. Just these guys put so much into it. Go over there, take the money. England's where it's at for him at the moment. And then maybe USA, whatever. It's disappointing he's not a bigger name here in Australia. I can't explain why he's not. He's just not. But let's hope that changes. Brendan O'Brien, hi mate. Tim versus Crawford be a blinder. Yep, I agree. Who wins? I don't know. I'm not going to comment on that. I'd have to have a real good think about that one. I mean, look, let's face it, to be honest, you'd probably have to pick Crawford right at the moment. But Tim just doesn't cease to surprise me with the way he improves every fight. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tim took it right up to Crawford. So let's hope we get an opportunity to see it. D-Style, go to bed, mate. Good show. Thanks very much, mate. Again, if you don't follow D-Style on YouTube or social media, make sure you get on. One of the best shows on YouTube. And as I said, I'm on there occasionally as well. So all the best, mate, and we'll like to see you next time. A couple of more comments before we wrap it up. Paul Haraba. G'day, mate. How good was Dana Coolwell's win? Where do you rate the young man? I've got to admit, Paul, I haven't seen the fight yet. Was it on the weekend, was it? Or was it this weekend? I thought it was this weekend, was it? Did I miss it? I don't know. I can't comment, Paul. I didn't see it. I was on the Gold Coast for the Tszyu fight, and that's all I was focused on. I thought it was this weekend, or the one after maybe. How good was Dana Coolwell's win? As a fighter, though, mate, rate him 100%. Good young guy. Got a long way to go, though. Let's not get too excited just yet. But he's on the right path, and no doubt he'll get some good opportunities. And we'll be talking about his name definitely down the track for sure, mate. Opetai's by far our best fighter. Well, that's a good point you bring up there, Peter. Look out for my video out on Wednesday. I'm going to do an updated pound-for-pound list for Australia. If I get a chance, I might do the world as well. If not, I'll do it the week after. But this Wednesday, probably in the afternoon sometime, Australian time, I'm going to put out my number one. I'll let the cat out of the bag. For me, Opetai is still number one. Okay, that's all I'll say. And might be a few other surprises that I'm sure we'll get some chatter. But for me, Jai Opetai is still number one. I wouldn't argue if someone had Tim Tszyu at number one at all. So I've got Tszyu over Crawford. Said it a while. Yep, not going to argue with that one. Andy, I wonder what the heck happened to Castano or Virgil Ortiz. Yeah, well, they're the forgotten men, aren't they? Especially Castano. He would be another perfect fighter for Tim Tszyu. It'd be great if he had a tune-up fight. I would love to see that as well. I think Tim Tszyu takes him apart. I think that would be one-sided if you ask me. I think he beats Castano down and stops him inside the distance. All right, guys, I'm going to call it a night. We've gone about 15 minutes over what we normally do. Apologies if I didn't get to your question. There's just so much coming through, which is great. I really appreciate it. If you haven't seen my review of the Tim Tszyu Brian Mendoza fight, check it out. Everyone that's viewed it and commented, I really appreciate it. And again, there'll be more content out this week. The top 10 on Wednesday, and then the roundup on Friday as well, and whatever else I can find to do in the meantime. But again, hope you have a great week. All the fights this weekend. Sorry, I'll spit that out. If the fights are on, great viewing. Always this time of year, some great fights on and more to come. So until next week, we will see you then. Thanks, guys.